Do you really want to live the same life as everyone else? The same fear, the same routine, the same mediocre results? If you walk the same path everyone else walks, you'll end up where everyone else ends up, frustrated, confused, empty. But there's another way. More demanding, yes, but infinitely more powerful. The path of inner mastery. The path of those who choose to rise and never look down again. In this video, you will discover how Stoicism can become your greatest weapon to break through your own limits. What you'll find here isn't meant to decorate your mind, but to transform it. Because when you stop living like everyone else and start thinking like the few, that's when your mindset begins to rise. Maybe right now you think this all sounds impossible, that it's nice in theory, but in practice, no one actually pulls it off. Well, listen to this story, because it's going to show you that even the most forgotten person can rise up and leave everyone else behind. No one remembered his name during the first years of his life. He was just another slave in a Roman household, invisible to all, owned by a man who treated him as if he were worthless. They called him Epictetus, but not even that name truly belonged to him. His body was in chains, and, in one of his cruel outbursts, his master broke his leg, just to prove he could. From that day on, he limped for the rest of his life. But that injury, instead of destroying him, became the beginning of his freedom. Because Epictetus understood something very few people ever do. His master could chain his hands, decide if he ate or slept, even crush his bones, but he could never touch his mind. Right there, in the middle of pain, he discovered that freedom doesn't begin when the chains are broken. It begins when you decide that nothing external can define who you are. While other slaves dreamed of running away, he started training his inner world. He observed every emotion rising in his chest, every impulsive thought, every reaction that used to make him feel small. And instead of fighting his master, he fought something far more powerful: his anger, his fear, his ego. That was his real revolution. Years later, when he finally gained his freedom, many expected him to seek revenge. It would have made sense, it would have been fair, but Epictetus no longer needed external justice. He had already won the greatest battle. He chose not to hate the man who had humiliated him. He chose not to waste his life looking back. And instead of becoming a bitter man, he became a teacher. In a small corner of the empire, the man who had once been a crippled slave began to teach senators, soldiers, and future emperors how to free themselves from their own mental chains. His words crossed centuries because they came from a place few ever reach: total mastery over oneself. Epictetus never held political power or wealth or fame, but he outgrew them all because he conquered the only kingdom that no one can take from you: your mind. And that's the first lesson on this path. You don't need the world to change in order to win. You need to change yourself until the world can no longer touch you. Now, let me ask you something. How long have you been settling for a life that doesn't fulfill you? The same fears, the same results, the same "I'll do it tomorrow." If that question stings, it's because deep down, you know you're capable of more. Subscribe and join this community of Stoic minds committed to rising above. And make it clear in the comments by writing, "Today I start rising." If you're tired of getting the same results as everyone else, get ready, because what's coming could change everything. Lesson 1. Your legacy starts today. My friend, when everything is over, you won't be remembered for the money you made or the possessions you accumulated. You'll be remembered for the impact you left on others. Your life isn't measured by what you have, but by what you leave behind. Think about it. Everything you've learned, every challenge you've overcome, every experience you've gathered. For what? To keep it all to yourself? To let it all disappear with you the day you're gone? Or, on the contrary, to leave a mark that continues beyond you? The problem is that we often only think about the present, the immediate. We focus on getting through the day, surviving the routine, advancing in our personal goals. And that's fine. But if that's all you focus on, you miss out on something bigger. It's not just about improving your own life. It's about understanding how what you do impacts others. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived the concentration camps, studied this in depth. His theory of life's meaning explains that the most resilient people, the ones who overcome any adversity, are those who find a purpose greater than themselves. They don't live just for themselves, but for what they can contribute to the world. And those are the people who leave a real mark. Someone has surely left a mark on you. Think of a teacher who taught you something you still remember, a friend who gave you advice at just the right moment, a book that made you see reality in a new way. Those people, in one way or another, influenced who you are today. But what about you? How are you impacting others? You don't need to be a millionaire, famous, or a world leader to leave a mark. You don't have to give inspiring speeches or write books read across the world. Your legacy is built through the little things. Maybe today, you'll talk to someone who needs a push, and you won't even realize it. Maybe an idea you share will help someone make a better decision. Maybe something you learn and apply in your life will become an example for those around you. So stop thinking only about the immediate. Ask yourself, what impact do I want to have left in 10 years? How do I want to be remembered by the people around me? And once you have that answer, start sharing what you know. Never underestimate the power of advice, a story, or a few words at the right moment. Sometimes something that seems insignificant to you can change someone else's life. But most importantly, be the example you'd like to see. No one remembers those who just talk, but those who act. The best way to inspire others is to be living proof of what you say. Remember what Marcus Aurelius said, "What we do in life echoes in eternity." Every decision you make doesn't end with you. It influences others, shapes what you build, and defines the impact you leave. And here's the key. Becoming the best, the wisest, your own master, isn't just a personal journey. It's the opportunity to transform your life, and with it, the lives of those around you. Because your legacy doesn't start tomorrow or years from now. It starts today. Lesson 2. Lose without giving up, and you'll always win. Tell me honestly, how many times have you thrown in the towel just before things were about to change? How many opportunities have you let slip away because you mistook a setback for the end of the road? Here's an uncomfortable truth. The world isn't ruled by people who never fail. It's ruled by those who refuse to give up, even when everything seems lost. And yes, the Stoics understood that better than anyone. Marcus Aurelius wrote that, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing." And he was right. Life isn't a graceful performance, it's a fight. You're going to take hits, you're going to fall. But the only question that really matters is, will you get back up? Picture a boxer in the middle of the ring. The crowd is roaring, sweat covers his face, and he's already hit the ground 3 times. Each time he stands, his opponent knocks him down again. Most people in his place would stay down. They'd say it's not worth it, that defeat is inevitable. But that boxer decides to rise once more. Not because he's sure he'll win, but because he knows that giving up would mean losing himself. That's how life works. You'll fall many times, and every fall can be an excuse to quit or an opportunity to grow stronger. The Stoics also understood that defeat was not the enemy. Seneca said, "Misfortune is the occasion for virtue." And that phrase wasn't just a pretty piece of philosophy. It was a reminder that character is forged in adversity. Every time you fail, life is holding up a mirror, showing you what needs to improve. Every failed attempt carries a lesson. Every stumble hides a clue about what to refine. Failure doesn't define you, but your reaction to it does. Look at James Dyson. He went through over 5,000 failed prototypes before creating the vacuum that made him a billionaire. 5,000 times he could have quit. 5,000 moments when anyone else would have said, "Enough." But he didn't stop. And every failure brought him closer to success. Or think of Vera Wang. She dreamed of being an Olympic figure skater and failed. Then she tried to build a career in publishing and didn't get the job. Today she's one of the most celebrated designers in the world. Not because she never lost, but because she decided that every loss would become a stepping stone. Here's the part almost no one tells you. Losing and giving up are not the same thing. Losing is inevitable. Giving up is a choice. Every great person has lost more times than they've won. The difference is that they never allowed defeat to be the end of their story. If you do what most people do, quit at the first obstacle, make excuses, and tell yourself, "It wasn't meant for me," you'll end up where they are, stuck in mediocrity. But if you keep moving forward, even when it hurts, even when it seems hopeless, your mindset will start operating on another level. The Japanese have a word I love, kintsugi. It's the art of repairing broken pottery with gold. The cracks aren't hidden, they become the most valuable part of the piece. Your failures work the same way. They're not scars to hide, they're marks of experience, proof that your story continues. Every time you break and rebuild yourself, you become more resilient, wiser, and better prepared for what's coming next. And this isn't just theory, it's real life. The entrepreneur who fails with 3 businesses before building a successful one. The student who flunks an exam and learns how to study better. The runner who finishes last in their first race and months later crosses the finish line among the top. In every case, there's a pattern. Failure didn't stop them, it trained them. If you want to elevate your mindset and break your limits, you must change your relationship with loss. Stop seeing it as an ending. See it as part of the process. Keep a failure journal. Write down every attempt that didn't work and what it taught you. Redefine your goals as processes, not as results. And every time you fail, celebrate it, because it means you're trying something most people don't even dare to start. Losing isn't the opposite of winning. It's the price you pay to keep moving forward. In the end, the people who go the farthest aren't the ones who always succeed. They're the ones who never stop trying. So the next time you fall, don't ask if it's worth getting back up. Just do it. Because every time you rise, you're one step closer to proving that you're not here to give up. You're here to rise above them all. Lesson 3. It all starts in your mind. My friend, I'm going to ask you a tough question, just to start off right. How do you talk to yourself? I'm sure you've told yourself at some point, "I'm not good at this. I'm not a fast learner. I don't have enough talent." And before you even try, your mind has already given you the answer. Giving up sounds easier. Have you realized that it's not reality holding you back? It's your own mind. You've told yourself the same story so many times that you've turned it into your truth. And just like that, without even noticing, you've made your own mind your worst enemy. But here's the truth no one tells you. If you think like a loser, you'll live like one. If you think like a master, you'll become one. Do you know what Marcus Aurelius would say if he saw you in this situation? The quality of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. If you want to be the best at something, if you want to master a skill or become a leader in your field, you first have to conquer your mind. The Stoics didn't wait to feel strong before acting with strength, nor to feel wise before making clear decisions. They did the opposite. They trained their minds with discipline, with consistency, and by learning every single day. Look at great athletes, successful entrepreneurs, leaders who seem unstoppable. It's not that they were born with more talent than everyone else. It's that they think differently. Nick Bare, the great athlete and entrepreneur, puts it brutally honestly. If you think like a beginner, you'll always be a beginner. You can't train like an amateur and expect professional results. You can't eat like someone without discipline and expect the physique of an athlete. You can't live in a mediocre way and expect to have the mindset of a master. So tell me, how do you expect to become the best if you keep talking to yourself like someone who can't? Imagine this. You're asked to speak in front of an important meeting. The second they tell you, your mind sets off alarms. I'm going to embarrass myself. They're going to laugh at me. Someone else would do it better. And without realizing it, you start looking for excuses. That you're too busy, that maybe next time, that this isn't your thing. That's why we're going to change that right now. Because it's not just about learning more or doing more. It's about thinking differently. First, change your internal dialogue. How do you talk to yourself when you make a mistake? If every time you fail, you say things like, "I'm so useless, I'll never get it," or "I shouldn't even try," you're sabotaging yourself without realizing it. But what if instead, every time you fail, you ask yourself, "What can I learn from this? How can I improve next time? What would someone who's already a master at this do? That's what true masters do. They learn from every setback instead of using it as an excuse to give up. Second, focus on what you can control. Epictetus said we can't waste time worrying about what's out of our hands, because that only drains our energy. Are you worried about what others think of you? You can't control that. Are you afraid you're not good enough? The only thing you can do is improve every day. Stop spending energy on what you can't change, and put all your focus on what you can control. And third, have a personal mantra. No, I'm not talking about something mystical or repeating empty phrases. I mean programming your mind every morning with an idea that puts you in the right mental state. It can be as simple as telling yourself, "Today, I focus on improving by just 1%. Or, "I give my best effort as if I were already a master at this." Try it for a week and you'll see the difference, because in the end, everything starts here, in your mind. You can keep living under the rules of your insecurities, or you can decide to rewrite them. You can let your inner dialogue drag you down, or you can use it to lift you up. You can see obstacles as excuses or as opportunities. It's your choice. Keep seeing knowledge as something out of reach, or start using it strategically. And trust me, when you conquer your mind, everything else becomes possible. That's how you truly become someone who masters their life. Lesson 4. Memorize like never before. Be honest, my friend. How many times have you tried to learn something new, only to feel like your brain hit the reset button the next day? Or even worse, you study for hours for an exam, but when it's time to answer, your mind goes completely blank, as if someone wiped your hard drive. And the most ridiculous part? You remember the lyrics to a song you don't even like, but you can't retain the information you actually need for your life. How is that possible? Here's the problem. If you don't train your memory the right way, you'll never become the best at what you do. You won't be wiser, you won't master your knowledge, and you definitely won't be your own teacher. Because what's the point of learning if you forget everything 5 minutes later? But you know what? The problem isn't you. It's that the way we were always taught to memorize is, quite frankly, a disaster. In school, they made us repeat things out loud over and over again, as if our brains worked like a tape recorder. But if that actually worked, we'd all be geniuses after hearing a song on the radio 10 times, don't you think? Then, you see people who can memorize a deck of cards in seconds or recall insanely long lists of information effortlessly. And you think, their brains must be built differently. Or, I just don't have a good memory, I was born this way. But what if I told you they don't have a special brain? They just use a different technique. Did you know there are world memory championships? Yes, people who can remember a deck of cards in seconds or recite hundreds of words without a single mistake. But they don't have superpowers. They use a trick, the memory palace. The idea is simple but powerful. Instead of mindlessly repeating information, they turn it into images and place them along a mental path they already know. Imagine you need to remember a shopping list: bread, tomatoes, milk, and coffee. Instead of repeating it like a robot, picture your house filled with exploding tomatoes, a bathtub full of milk instead of water, and a giant loaf of bread sitting on your couch. The absurdity makes your brain hold on to it effortlessly. If the Stoics had known about this technique, they would have used it without hesitation. They already understood that the brain works better with images and associations. That's why Seneca said, "Words must become actions." It's not enough to accumulate information. You have to make it stick and, most importantly, apply it. If you want to train your memory like a true master, here are 3 strategies that will make all the difference. First, use visual associations. This works for everything. If you're learning a new concept, connect it with a clear, easy-to-remember image. Want to remember a negotiation technique? Imagine a chess game. Trying to learn a writing rule? Picture an editor marking up a manuscript with a giant red pen. The crazier the image, the easier it will be to recall. Second, apply spaced repetition. Don't try to learn everything in one go. Science has proven that the brain retains information better when it's repeated at key intervals. Think of it like training a muscle. If you lift weights once and never do it again, you won't gain strength. But if you train consistently, the results stick. Third, explain it out loud. Remember what we said before. If you can't explain something difficult in a simple way, you don't really understand it yet. When you verbalize what you've learned, your brain processes it better and creates deeper connections. So next time you study something new, try explaining it to someone who has no clue about the topic. If you can do it without stumbling or using complicated words, then you've truly learned it. My friend, your memory isn't broken, it just needs training. And when you train it, you don't just remember better. You think faster, structure your ideas more clearly, and become someone who truly masters what they know. Lesson 5. Grow through discomfort. My friend, be honest. How many times have you avoided something just because it made you uncomfortable? How many opportunities have you let slip away because you were afraid to step out of your comfort zone? Think of a baby bird in its nest. It doesn't have to do anything. Its mother brings food, keeps it warm, and its world is safe and comfortable. But one day, the nest isn't enough anymore. If it wants to fly, if it wants to survive, it has to jump. And in that moment, it has two choices. Stay where it is, comfortable but limited, or face the fear and learn to use its wings. Now tell me, are you still sitting in your nest, waiting for everything to change while you stay still? Because listen carefully. If everything is easy, you're not improving. Seneca said, "Adversity is the training ground of the soul." He didn't see discomfort as a punishment but as a gym for the mind. And he didn't just talk about it in theory, he lived it. Every so often he would sleep on the floor, wear simple clothes, and eat only the basics, even though he had more than enough wealth. Why? Because he knew that if his happiness depended on comfort, the moment he lost it, he would suffer. But if he trained himself to handle discomfort, nothing could break him. And I know what you're thinking. Okay, but facing discomfort isn't that easy. I get it. No one wants to be uncomfortable on purpose. But some people have made it a way of life. Look at the creators of yes theory. Do you know their motto? Seek discomfort. Their philosophy is simple but powerful. The more you step out of your comfort zone, the more you grow. They've done things that seem crazy. Traveling with no money, staying in strangers' homes, saying yes to experiences most people would avoid out of fear. And they've documented it all, proving that the more you expose yourself to the unknown, the stronger you become. Don't worry, I'm not asking you to sleep on the floor or travel without money, but I am asking you to start seeing discomfort as a sign of progress. If waking up early to work out is hard, if you avoid difficult conversations, if trying something new scares you, that's exactly where your next level is. Discomfort isn't an obstacle. It's a compass pointing you toward where you need to go. I'm speaking from personal experience. The first time I had to speak in a company meeting, I was terrified. My mouth went dry, my hands were sweaty, my voice was shaking. But I didn't back down. I did it once, then again, and again. Today, my boss trusts me to give talks to the entire team, even to the executives. What used to terrify me is now something I do without even thinking. Because, my friend, discomfort disappears when you face it enough times. Now, I want you to do something. Take a piece of paper and write down the things you avoid because they make you uncomfortable. What could it be? Asking for a raise, resolving a conflict, going to an event alone. Whatever it is, pick one and commit to facing it this week. You don't need to do something massive. Just take one small step. For example, if socializing makes you uncomfortable, go out and say hello to someone new. Discomfort is defeated through action, not overthinking. And even more important, learn to reinterpret discomfort. Instead of seeing it as a danger sign, start seeing it as a growth sign. Think about the gym. When you lift weights, your muscles ache. But you know that pain means they're getting stronger. Discomfort in life works the same way. If something challenges you, it means it's making you better. Every time you feel fear or resistance, repeat to yourself, "This is part of the process. This means I'm growing. So tell me, what do you choose? Comfort now or growth in the long run? Because the difference between where you are today and where you want to be lies in the things you haven't dared to do yet. But when you force yourself to seek discomfort, when you accept it as part of the journey, you become unstoppable. So tell me, what will you do today to step out of your comfort zone and take one more step toward the person you want to become? Sixth lesson. Consistency is your superpower. You might think you're giving it your best shot. But tell me the truth. How many times have you quit just before things were about to start working? Most people don't fail because they're not capable. They fail because they give up too soon. And that's exactly why so many end up with the same mediocre results. They start with excitement, but give up when the effort gets quiet, when the applause fades, when it feels like nothing's changing. That's the big mistake, believing that success comes in bursts of energy. The truth is, life doesn't reward the one who starts the strongest. It rewards the one who doesn't stop. Anyone can begin a project. Very few can stick with it when no one's watching. And it's precisely those few who, sooner or later, rise above the rest. You've probably thought this many times. If I don't read today, it's fine. It's just one day. Or, with how little I can do, I'll just wait until I have more time. But imagine instead that you decide to read 10 pages every day. Just 10. That doesn't sound like much, right? And yet, by the end of the year, you'll have finished over 30 books. Now think about the version of you who only reads when they feel like it, or when there's time. Maybe they finish one, if they're lucky, or none. And that's where everything changes. Not in talent or intelligence, but in consistency. In that quiet decision to keep going, even when it feels like nothing is happening. Epictetus compared it to training the body. No one expects to get strong after just one workout. They know it takes months of consistent practice. The same goes for your mind and character. They don't grow in a moment. They're built through daily repetition of small acts. Every day you practice, your soul trains. Every day you repeat, even just a little, you're chiseling something inside you that builds up and eventually reveals itself. Seneca put it plainly, time is always enough if we use it well. And that's the real issue for most people. They waste their time on short-lived bursts of effort, on sparks that quickly burn out. Meanwhile, someone with less talent but more consistency keeps moving forward. And in the end, they surpass everyone else. Look around you. The people you admire didn't get where they are through luck. They got there because they chose not to stop. The athlete who trains when no one's watching. The musician who plays the same piece over and over until it becomes part of them. The entrepreneur who keeps working in silence while others have already given up. What sets them apart isn't some innate gift. It's the stubbornness to keep going. And this is where you need to ask yourself a hard question. Are your daily actions building something? Or are you still starting and quitting? Because if you take the easy road, the one powered by quick bursts of emotion that fade fast, you'll stay stuck right where everyone else is. But if you choose the consistent path, your mindset will reach a level most never even get close to. Consistency works like compound interest. Every small effort adds up, even when it seems like nothing's changing. That's why you don't need to do something huge all at once. You just need to commit to the small things every day. Maybe today you don't have the clarity to solve all your problems, but you do have 5 minutes to sit down and reflect on how you feel. Maybe you can't change your whole mindset in one day, but you can question one belief that's holding you back. Maybe you don't know your purpose yet, but you can step outside your comfort zone and try something new. Each of those actions may seem insignificant on its own, but repeated over and over, they add up into something massive. Just like money grows with interest, your discipline grows with time. And when you look back, you'll realize those small daily efforts built a version of you you never thought possible. Because that's exactly what consistency is, a silent superpower. While others are burning out chasing quick results, you'll be building quietly, strike by strike, day after day. And the moment will come when what once seemed impossible becomes obvious. Not because you're better than anyone, but because you kept going when everyone else stopped. So today, I want you to make it clear in the comments. Right, today I keep going, even if no one sees me. Let it be known that you're not chasing quick wins. You're after real strength. Because in a world where everyone starts and almost no one follows through, being consistent is what will set you apart. And once you are, you won't just have transformed your life. You'll have proven that you were ready to rise above them all. Lesson 7. You are capable of more than you think. Have you ever noticed that most of the time the biggest obstacle in your life is you? Listen, it's not the world, it's not a lack of resources, and it's not even your circumstances. It's you, that voice in your head that says, I can't. The one that stops you before you even try. But let me tell you something, those barriers aren't real. They exist only in your mind. How many times have you held yourself back just because you thought you weren't enough? My friend, I'm here to tell you the truth. You are enough. You are capable. Epictetus made this very clear when he said, circumstances don't make the man, they reveal him. What does this mean? That challenges are what show you what you're really made of. He himself was born into slavery, but he never let his situation define him. Through inner work and perseverance, he became one of the most influential philosophers in history. His life is proof that the limits we set for ourselves are mental. And, my friend, you are no exception. Think about Charles Chaplin's story. As a child, he lived in an orphanage, spending entire days just trying to find something to eat. The world saw him as just another poor kid, someone destined for a life of struggle. But Chaplin didn't see himself that way. He once said, even back then, I considered myself the greatest actor in the world. Powerful, right? That belief in his own potential is what led him to become one of the most legendary figures in film history. And this isn't just philosophy or feel-good stories. Science backs it up too. A study published in Psychological Science analyzed how self-belief affects performance in challenging situations. How did they test it? They asked a group of people to take on difficult tasks, solving complex problems, completing physical exercises, and found that those who truly believed in their ability not only performed better but also persisted longer, even when things got tough. Why does this happen? Because when you think you can't, your brain shuts down. But when you believe you can, something shifts. Your mind starts searching for solutions, for alternatives, for ways to push forward. Your mindset is the key to unlocking your true potential. Now let me put you in a situation. Imagine you're faced with an opportunity, giving a presentation, applying for that dream job, reaching out to someone you admire. But instead of taking the leap, you start thinking, I'm not ready. Someone else will do it better. Sound familiar? Let me be blunt. That voice holding you back is wrong. You don't need to be 100% prepared. The only thing you need to do is start. Isn't it time to change that? Here are 2 things you can do today. First, make a list of things you believe are impossible. Maybe it's running a marathon, writing a book, learning a new language. Write down just one and take the first step. Buy a book, go for a walk, sign up for a course. But do something. Second, challenge yourself once a week. Step out of your comfort zone. Speak in public, say no when you'd usually say yes, or try something that scares you. Each challenge will prove to you that you're far stronger than you thought. Because believe me, you are worth more than you think, you know more than you realize, and you matter more than you imagine. Your potential is there, waiting for you to stop limiting yourself. So tell me, how much longer are you going to wait before discovering what you're truly capable of? Lesson 8. Stop comparing yourself. Imagine you're running on a track. You're focused, breathing well, keeping a steady pace. But suddenly you start looking to the sides. You see someone running faster, another who doesn't even seem tired, and instead of keeping your rhythm, you become obsessed with them. You tense up, you lose your stride, and worst of all, you stop moving forward. Sound familiar? That's exactly what happens when you compare yourself to others. It doesn't make you faster. It doesn't make you better. It just distracts you and holds you back. Do you know what Epictetus would tell you? Don't worry about what others do. Focus on what you can control. And he was right. What good does it do to waste your energy watching someone else's progress if it changes nothing in your own life? If you spend more time observing what others are doing than working on yourself, you're not just losing focus, you're losing your own progress. And this is where the worst enemy of all comes in: social media. I'm sure it's happened to you. You wake up in the morning, grab your phone without thinking, and start scrolling. You see someone traveling, another person running a successful business, someone else in the best shape of their life. And there you are, still lying in bed, feeling like you're falling behind. But, my friend, do you know what's really happening? You're comparing your reality to the most polished, edited version of someone else's life. And while you're doing that, you're not doing anything for your own life. So, what can you do to break this cycle? First, set personal goals and measure your progress based on who you were yesterday, not on anyone else. If you did something better today than you did last week, that's progress. If you took one more step in your project, that's what matters. Your only competition is yourself. Second, if social media makes you feel inadequate, step away from it. And here's a real piece of advice: don't touch your phone in the first hour of your day. It's forbidden. Studies show that starting your day with social media affects your mood and puts you in a reactive state instead of a proactive one. A great example of this is in the podcast, The 5 a.m. Club, where they explain that the first thing you consume in the morning shapes your mindset. If instead of opening Instagram, you take a moment to plan your day or do something productive, you'll start with a mindset of action instead of comparison. And yes, I know, it's hard to do because we're completely addicted, but it's not impossible. How can you make it easier? First, leave your phone outside your bedroom when you sleep. If necessary, use a traditional alarm clock. Second, when you wake up, do something that helps you improve. Read, write, exercise, or simply plan your day. You don't need to disappear from the internet. Just make sure the first thing you do every morning isn't comparing yourself to others. Now, I want you to ask yourself something honestly. How many hours have you wasted watching other people's progress instead of working on your own? How many times have you let comparison drain the energy that you could have used to improve? My friend, if you force yourself to be better day after day, the only comparison that will ever matter is the one you make with yourself. Ninth lesson: control your emotions, or they'll control your life. My friend, the world is full of smart people who make stupid decisions simply because they couldn't control what they were feeling. Anger destroys relationships in seconds. Fear paralyzes projects that took years to build. Anxiety makes you miss once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. The Stoics saw it with total clarity. Emotions aren't the problem is when you hand them the controls. Seneca said that anger is an acid that does more damage to the container than to anything it's poured on. Epictetus warned that anyone who lets themselves be driven by what they can't control is doomed to frustration. And they were right. Because when your emotions take the wheel, your destiny is no longer in your hands. Picture this. You get a message that makes your blood boil. You don't think, you don't reflect. You just fire back in anger. And within seconds, what was a small misunderstanding explodes into a full-blown fight. Or take another example. Someone says something that stirs up your insecurity, and you decide to walk away from a project you hadn't even started. All because of a passing emotion. That's how easy it is for something small to take control of your entire life. And the most dangerous part is, you don't even realize it's happening. Seneca wrote a phrase we should all remember daily. Anger is an acid that does more harm to the vessel that holds it than to anything it's poured upon. And he wasn't just talking about anger. He was talking about all the emotions we let grow without control. It's not others who pay the price when you explode. It's you. You're the one who drains your energy, who ruins opportunities, who drifts away from your goals. Epictetus was just as clear. If you get angry over things outside your control, you're condemning yourself to a life of frustration. If you don't choose which emotions to feed, you'll end up being a slave to all of them. Look around and you'll see it every day. People making impulsive decisions and regretting them later. People trapped in fear, too scared to change their lives. Brilliant ideas that die before they begin, because doubt was stronger than action. And no, the solution isn't to feel less. Feeling is part of being human. The difference lies in what you do with what you feel. Marcus Aurelius practiced something he called deliberate calm. In the middle of war, with the entire empire trembling around him, he wrote that, "The soul must remain steady even when everything else collapses." He wasn't denying the tension or the fear or the chaos. He was simply choosing not to be ruled by them. That's the core of emotional mastery, to feel without losing control. The truth is, intense emotions cloud your judgment. Fear makes you see danger where there is none. Excitement pushes you toward reckless choices. Sadness convinces you nothing is worth it. If you don't learn to pause, you'll always react on impulse instead of reason. And that's the perfect recipe for regret. The Stoics had a brilliant technique for this. Premeditatio malorum, the practice of visualizing the worst-case scenarios ahead of time, so if they happened, they wouldn't catch them off guard. By imagining fear, failure, or loss, they stripped it of its power. It was their way of training to stay calm even in chaos. And today, centuries later, it's just as useful. Because in the end, long-term success depends more on your ability to manage emotions than on your IQ. The winner isn't the smartest. It's the one who doesn't lose their head. Few examples show this better than Nelson Mandela. After decades in prison, it would have been understandable if he came out full of rage. No one would have blamed him. But he chose the opposite path, reconciliation. He knew that hatred would only keep him in chains. That choice wasn't weakness, it was power in its purest form. There are practical ways to start taking control. One of the simplest, the 10-second rule. Anytime you feel the urge to react emotionally, pause, breathe. 10 seconds might seem small, but they're enough for your rational brain to take back the lead. Another tool is naming what you feel out loud. I'm angry. I feel afraid. Naming it reduces its power because it's no longer some invisible monster. And above all, shift how you talk about emotions. Instead of saying, "This makes me angry," say, "I'm choosing to be angry about this." That tiny language shift creates a huge shift in control. My friend, if you don't learn to rule your emotions, they'll rule your life. And if they do, you'll end up exactly where everyone else does, stuck in impulsive decisions, missed opportunities, and an endless loop of regret. But if you choose to take charge, if you learn to feel without reacting, to observe before acting, your mindset will rise above the chaos. Lesson 10. Making good decisions is a skill. Imagine this, my friend. You're at a crossroads. Two paths lie ahead. One is easy, quick, the option that seems obvious at that moment. The other requires more effort, more patience, more long-term vision. And here's the problem. Most people choose the first one without much thought. Not because it's the best option, but because they don't know how to make good decisions. Bad decisions aren't about bad luck. They come from a lack of strategy. Marcus Aurelius put it clearly. Our life is what our thoughts make of it. And if your thoughts are impulsive, messy, and lack analysis, what do you think will happen to your life? If you want to be the best at something, master a skill, or become your own teacher, you need to learn to make decisions with clarity. Because every choice you make either brings you closer to or pushes you further away from the version of yourself you want to build. But most people don't think this way. Think about the times you've bought something on impulse just because it was on sale. At the time, it seemed like a good idea. Then comes the regret, when you realize you didn't need it, or that you could have used that money for something better. The same thing happens in relationships. Many times we choose to be with someone because we get carried away by the emotions of the moment, without thinking about whether that person truly helps us grow or drags us down. Or in work. How many times has someone taken a job just because it pays well, without considering whether it will help them grow or leave them stuck for years? Bad decisions don't come out of nowhere. They are the result of not properly analyzing your options. And the Stoics understood this well. That's why they had a method called premeditation of evils. It didn't mean they always expected the worst. It meant that before making a decision, they imagined all the possible consequences. Before taking action, Marcus Aurelius would analyze, if I do this, what could happen? What's the worst-case scenario? Am I prepared for it? That is the difference between someone who lets life push them around and someone who truly takes control of their destiny. So imagine this situation. You've been feeling unmotivated at your job for a while. You know you could aim higher, learn a new skill, and find something better. But there's fear. What if I don't succeed? What if I regret it? What if I lose stability? This is where the difference lies between deciding with strategy or deciding with emotion. If you decide out of fear, you'll stay where you are, complaining, waiting for things to change on their own. But if you decide strategically, applying the Stoic mindset, you'll do something different. First, evaluate before deciding. Don't make a decision just because it feels right in the moment. Analyze it. Ask yourself, what do I really want? Does this option bring me closer to or further from my goals? Second, think long-term, not just about the immediate situation. Will this job allow me to grow in 5 years? Or is it just giving me temporary comfort? Is this relationship stable and helping me become better? Or am I just staying out of habit? And if you're still unsure, consult an outsider. Not because you should do whatever they say, but because an outside perspective can help you see what you might be missing. Sometimes we're so caught up in our emotions that we don't realize the obvious. Every decision you make shapes the person you become. It's not about luck, it's about strategy. Here, in this community, we're learning to think better, to choose wisely, and to become our own teachers. So tell us, what was the last decision that truly changed your life? Share it in the comments. We want to read your story and learn together. Lesson 11. Think long-term if you want giant results. My friend, there are 2 ways to live, with your eyes fixed on the present or on what's coming. The first is the most common. It's the I'll do it tomorrow, the I deserve it today, the I want results now. The second is the one that changes lives. It understands that every decision is a seed, that what you do today isn't just about today, it's about the tree you'll harvest 10 years from now. And if you keep doing what everyone does, chasing instant rewards, avoiding effort, quitting when you don't see results, you'll end up where everyone ends up, with a life that feels small because it was never built with vision. The Stoics talked about this constantly, because they knew the human mind is wired for the immediate. Seneca said we suffer more from our craving for the quick than from reality itself. That impatience is what makes you abandon a project that hasn't bloomed yet, switch paths right before a breakthrough, choose pleasure over progress. And yet, nothing truly great happens fast. An empire, a legacy, a strong character, all are the result of decisions repeated over time. Picture yourself at home, sitting in front of your computer. You have 2 clear options. Spend the next 2 hours moving forward on the project that could change your life, or put on a show and disconnect just for today. You convince yourself you deserve a break, that there will be time tomorrow. And the next day you make the same choice. Weeks later, the project is still stuck, and you're still telling yourself you'll do it when you feel more like it. The same thing happens when you stay in a job that doesn't fulfill you because the paycheck comes fast, or when you drop a habit that's good for you because the results aren't immediate. Without realizing it, each small decision builds a wall between you and the life you want. Marcus Aurelius, even surrounded by wars, betrayals, and chaos, didn't make decisions with only the next day in mind. He thought about the legacy he would leave his children, about how his actions would shape future generations. Each decision had purpose, because each decision was part of something bigger. And Epictetus insisted we shouldn't wish for things to happen fast, but for them to happen well. What's built in haste collapses easily. Imagine someone planting a tree. Every day they water it a little. even when they see nothing pushing through the soil. Weeks pass, months pass, and it's still just a patch of damp earth. Then one day a sprout appears. With time, that sprout becomes a huge tree that offers shade, fruit, and shelter. The tree didn't grow because of one big burst of effort, but because of hundreds of small, steady acts. Your life works the same way. The future you want doesn't appear all at once. It's built drop by drop, decision by decision. Think about simple examples. If today you start investing 20 euros a month, in 20 years you'll have a foundation many would envy. If today you decide to read 10 pages a day, in a decade you'll have read more books than most people read in their entire lives. If today you begin to care for your health, years from now you'll have energy while others have surrendered to decline. The difference between the one who succeeds and the one who doesn't is rarely talent. It's vision. The Stoics lived with that perspective. They didn't make reactive decisions. They weren't driven by the urgency of the moment. They chose each step with the whole path in mind. You can do the same. Before making an important decision, ask, what effect will this have 5 years from now? Make a list of what you truly value, and check whether your current routine brings you closer to it or farther away. And above all, stop demanding immediate results from processes that take time. My friend, if you keep acting like everyone else, looking only at what's right in front of you, expecting everything to happen quickly, quitting when progress is slow, you'll keep living like everyone else. But if you lift your gaze beyond the present and start acting like the architect of your destiny, each decision will begin to add up in the right direction. Maybe the result won't come tomorrow or next month, but it will come. And when it does, it will be so big that you'll know every patient step was worth it. Because in the end, thinking long-term isn't just about hitting goals. It's about building a life that makes sense, a life that reflects your effort and your vision, not your momentary impulses. And if you do that, you won't just be ready to break your limits. You'll be ready for the most important step of all. Now that you understand how to build your destiny, one piece remains: deciding what kind of legacy you want to leave in the world. And believe me, that last step can change absolutely everything. Lesson 12. Confidence is trained. Imagine you're a superhero. You walk out of your house with your suit on, chest up, eyes fixed on the horizon. You move as if the world belongs to you, as if every step you take leaves a mark. You don't hesitate. You don't question whether you're good enough. You just act. Because superheroes don't wait until they feel ready to save the world. They just do it. Now back to reality. How many times have you postponed something because you didn't feel ready? How many opportunities have you let pass while waiting to be prepared? If you keep waiting, let me give you the answer in advance. You never will be. Epictetus put it clearly. Confidence and tranquility do not come from external opinions, but from our own inner strength. And here's the key. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. It doesn't come from compliments or approval, but from proving to yourself, over and over again, that you are capable. Think about it. Arnold Schwarzenegger arrived in Hollywood with a heavy accent, a physique many considered excessive, and a name that most people couldn't even pronounce. They told him he had no future in acting, that he would never land a serious role. And what did he do? He didn't wait for others to give him permission to succeed. He built himself. He kept going, shaping his own path, ignoring the critics, and trusting that consistent effort would bring results. And it did. Today, his name is a brand, an icon of cinema and success. But you don't need to look at Hollywood to understand this. Just look at what science says. Albert Bandura, one of the most influential psychologists of the past century, developed the theory of self-efficacy. His idea is simple. Confidence isn't a fixed personality trait. It's a skill that strengthens with experience. The more you expose yourself to challenges, the more confidence you gain in your ability to overcome them. You've probably seen this at the gym. Someone walks in for the first time looking lost, insecure, afraid of making a fool of themselves. But after a few weeks, as they start handling the weights with more ease, their attitude changes. They move with more confidence. They know what they're doing. It's not that one day they just woke up feeling more confident. It's that they trained it. So, my friend, if confidence is something you can train, how do you strengthen yours? First, do something uncomfortable every day. You don't have to jump out of a plane or give a speech in front of a packed auditorium. Small actions that push you out of your comfort zone are enough. Ask for a discount at a store, start a conversation with a stranger, share your opinion in a meeting. These might seem insignificant, but over time, they add up. Also, have you heard of the power pose strategy? Amy Cuddy, a psychologist from Harvard, proved that how you position your body affects your level of confidence. Try this. Before facing a challenging situation, stand with your feet firmly planted, hands on your hips, back straight like a superhero. It might seem silly, but studies have shown that this simple action increases feelings of self-assurance. And finally, remember your small victories. Every day, write down something you accomplished, no matter how small. It could be as simple as speaking up in a meeting without fear or finishing a tough workout. Every achievement counts, and when you stack enough of them, you start seeing yourself differently. My friend, you weren't born confident, but you can train yourself to be. It's not something others give you. It's something you build day by day, with every action you take. And when you train your confidence, you become your own master. Lesson 13. Your body, your foundation for everything. I'm sure it's happened to you. You try to focus, but your mind feels foggy. You want to move with energy, but your body feels heavy, slow. You try to motivate yourself to do something productive, but everything feels like an exhausting battle. And then it hits you. Your body isn't responding the way you want, and that changes everything. It doesn't matter how much you work on your mind, how many goals you set, how much effort you put in. If your body doesn't support you, everything becomes harder. Let me tell you about my neighbor. For years, her life slowly faded away. She could barely do things on her own. Going to the supermarket became an exhausting challenge. She would get tired from the slightest movement. And over time, she started isolating herself. She stopped going out, stopped smiling. Her world shrank to four walls. And the worst part? It seemed like she had accepted that fate, but her daughter hadn't. One day, she decided to do something for her mother. She started encouraging her to move, even just a little. At first, it was slow steps, full of effort, without much motivation. They went outside for 10 minutes, taking small walks. Then, little by little, they added some stretching, some simple exercises at home. And to their surprise, her body started responding. But do you know what was even more incredible? The change in her mind. It was unbelievable. She was no longer the same withdrawn person. Now she goes out for walks, talks to her neighbors, has more energy, laughs more. Taking care of her body didn't just bring back her mobility, it brought her back to life. So tell me, are you going to wait until it's too late, or are you going to start moving today? Walk at least 30 minutes a day. And don't see it as a boring chore. Turn it into your moment. One day, go out with your favorite music, feeling the rhythm push you forward. Another day, leave your headphones at home and just listen to nature, to the city, to the simple joy of being present. It's not just about walking, it's about activating your body and clearing your mind at the same time. And here's another key tip. Get enough sleep. It doesn't matter how productive you are during the day. If you don't rest properly, everything falls apart. Want a solid nighttime routine? Try this. An hour before bed, turn off all screens. Dim the lights, set a calm atmosphere, read a few pages of a book, write a little about your day, do something that helps you disconnect. Rest is just as important as movement. Seneca understood this well. We must train the body so that it serves the mind. Your body and mind are the most valuable tools you have. If you train them, if you take care of them, they become your greatest allies. But if you neglect them, they become your biggest burden. So tell me, what's the first step you'll take to take care of your body and mind? Lesson 14. Stop overthinking. Imagine you're holding a map. You study it, analyze it, plan the best route. You know exactly where you want to go. But there's a problem. You haven't moved a single step. And here's the truth, my friend. You can have the most detailed map in the world, but if you don't walk, how do you expect to reach your destination? This is what so many people do with their lives. They read about self-improvement, search for advice, watch motivational videos, but at the end of the day, they haven't done anything differently. Knowledge without action is useless, because no matter how much you think about improving, your life only changes when you take action. Marcus Aurelius put it plainly. Stop debating what it means to be good. Be good. Because what's the point of analyzing, planning, and discussing if, in the end, you don't get up and act? Nothing. If you want to change something, do it. Stop overthinking. Let me ask you something. How many times have you wanted to start something but got stuck in doubt? Maybe a project, an important decision, a conversation you've been avoiding. You tell yourself, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll wait until I have more time. I need to be fully ready first. But time passes and you're still in the same place. And then, the inevitable happens. You look around and see that others are moving forward. People who started with less than you, but who dared to take that first step. You see someone launching their business, someone else traveling, another person achieving what you keep postponing. And without realizing it, you start comparing yourself. And what do? You keep thinking, overanalyzing, waiting for the perfect moment, believing that if you just think hard enough, one day you'll wake up with absolute certainty that now is the right time. But here's reality, my friend. That moment never comes. And in the meantime, you stay stuck, unmoving, exactly where you were yesterday. That emptiness you sometimes feel, that frustration with yourself, it doesn't come from what you don't have. It comes from what you know you could do, but still haven't done. And if you truly want to improve day after day, you need to act now. Want the perfect trick to break out of this cycle? Mel Robbins' 5-second rule. It's simple, but powerful. When you know you need to do something but feel hesitation creeping in, count down in your mind. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and do it before your brain starts making excuses. Try it. Need to send that important message? Count down and hit send. Struggling to wake up early? Don't think. When you reach one, get up. Want to start a new project? Take a small step right now. Another key tip? Break big projects into small, manageable actions. If you need to write a report, don't stress about the 20 pages ahead. Just write the first paragraph. If you want to improve your health, don't obsess over losing weight. Just make a better food choice at your next meal. The key is to move, even just a little. Because, my friend, at the end of the day, power isn't in thinking about taking action, it's in taking action. So tell me, are you going to keep holding the map without moving? Or are you finally going to take the first step toward the life you truly want? Everything we've talked about so far has had one purpose: to push you to be better day after day. But if you really want to build the life you desire, there's still one last piece missing, something that ties everything together, the difference between staying stuck or moving forward without stopping. Do you want to discover it? Lesson 15. Master your mind before it masters you. How many times have you been right on the edge of achieving something, and just before taking the leap, your mind whispered, "You're not going to make it." That quiet but persistent voice that sabotages your decisions, convinces you you're not ready, turns an achievable dream into something impossible. We've all been there. And don't think the great Stoics were free from it. They were also hit by thoughts of doubt, fear, and insecurity. But they discovered something powerful. The mind wasn't an enemy to fear, it was a tool to learn how to master. And that's the clearest proof that if you don't take control, your mind will end up controlling you. You can have the best strategy, the most solid routine, the brightest talent, but if your inner dialogue is working against you, you'll lose the battle before it even begins. And here's what most people don't want to admit. It's not the external obstacles that hold you back the most. It's the stories you keep repeating inside your head. Epictetus made it crystal clear when he said that it's not things themselves that disturb us, but the opinion we have about them. That wasn't a comforting philosophical phrase. It was a map. Because what happens outside may be hard, but what happens inside can be devastating. Think about it. Marcus Aurelius carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. You already know what he was doing. Ruling an empire, facing wars, betrayals, and making decisions that could change the course of history. And even then, every morning he set time aside to write down his thoughts, to organize his mind before facing the chaos outside. It wasn't some intellectual ritual, it was a necessity. Because he understood that if he didn't bring order within himself, any external storm could bring him down. Your mind is like a wild horse. It has incredible strength, but if you don't know how to guide it, it'll drag you in the wrong direction. And the most dangerous part is, you often don't even realize it's already pulling you there. You see it when you turn down an opportunity because you think you're not ready. Or when you give up on a project before it even starts, because you keep telling yourself, "I'm not good at that." You see it when you compare yourself to others and decide you just don't have what it takes. What you think each day shapes what you do, and what you do defines who you become. If your mind keeps saying, "I can't," it will look for proof to make it true. If your mind says, "I'm not capable," it will stop trying. But if you flip the question to, "How can I make this possible?" your brain will start looking for paths where before it only saw walls. Psychologist Carol Dweck proved it with her research on growth mindset. People who believe they can improve through effort and learning end up achieving far more than those who believe their abilities are fixed. The difference isn't in their skills, it's in the way they talk to themselves. And this is where you need to start working. Just like you train your body, you need to train your mind. You can't expect it to be your ally if you've never challenged it. Training it means questioning every thought that holds you back. It means observing without reacting, choosing consciously what to focus on, and not letting your first emotions make the decisions for you. Try this simple exercise. Once a week, take a few minutes to write down the thoughts that keep repeating in your head. Read them carefully and ask yourself, is this bringing me closer to what I want or pulling me away? If it's not helping you, change it. Replace every "I can't" with "What do I need to make this happen?" Every "This is too hard" with "I'll break it down into smaller steps." At first, it'll feel forced, but with time, that new voice becomes your natural one. You can also practice this each night before you go to sleep. Close your eyes and think, how would I speak to myself if I were truly on my own side? Not with criticism, but with confidence. Ask yourself, what would I say if I were my own mentor? This simple shift starts to rewire the inner dialogue that's been shaping your life. Remember this, my friend. If you don't govern your mind, someone else will. Your fears, your past, your insecurities. They'll all take the wheel if you don't. And if you keep thinking like everyone else, repeating the same "I can't," the same excuses, the same limits, you'll end up exactly where they do. But if you choose to master your mind, if you decide to guide the horse instead of letting it drag you, your mindset will rise above any obstacle. Lesson 16. Learn like a true master. A long time ago in a distant kingdom, there was a young apprentice who dreamed of becoming the wisest man of his generation. He spent his days locked in the castle library, reading every scroll and memorizing every word. He knew about history, philosophy, astronomy, and never missed a chance to show it. If someone mentioned a topic, he would jump in with a long explanation. If an elder shared a lesson, he would correct them with facts from books. He was convinced that his knowledge made him superior. One day the king, intrigued by his reputation, decided to put him to the test. He took him to a lake deep in the forest and asked him to measure its depth. Confident, the young man took a rod, dipped it in the water, and declared with certainty, "Exactly 1 meter, Your Majesty." The king smiled, picked up a stone, and threw it into the water. Both watched as the stone disappeared into the darkness below. "Your knowledge is like your rod," the king said. "It only shows you what's on the surface, but true depth can only be discovered if you dive in." The apprentice, humbled, realized his mistake. He had confused accumulating information with true wisdom. From that day on, instead of trying to appear the wisest, he became the most curious. He stopped talking so much and started listening more. Instead of proving what he knew, He focused on learning from those with real experience. And that was when his journey to mastery truly began. My friend, the world is full of people who think they know everything, but in reality they've only scratched the surface. Don't be one of them. Seneca put it clearly, "While we teach, we learn." It's not just about collecting facts, but about understanding how to use them. Think about this. Have you ever seen someone cram for an exam only to forget everything within days? Now compare that to the student who asks questions in class, who looks for connections between ideas, who dares to challenge what they read. Guess who ends up truly understanding the subject? True masters aren't the ones who know everything. They're the ones willing to question, to learn actively, and to apply knowledge in the real world. Physicist Richard Feynman said that if you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well enough. So, put yourself to the test. The next time you learn something new, try explaining it to someone as if you were talking to a child, or better yet, to your grandmother. If your grandmother doesn't get it, go back and study it until you can explain it like a true master. You're probably wondering, but how do I do that? Trust me, it's easier than it seems. First, teach what you learn. It could be to a friend, a co-worker, or even in a short video for yourself. When you verbalize a concept and explain it, you reinforce your understanding and store it in your memory more deeply. Second, take strategic breaks. It's not about reading non-stop until your brain collapses. When you take breaks between study sessions, you give your mind time to connect ideas. It's like letting a recipe sit so the flavors blend better. And third, learn with intention. Don't read just to read. Don't listen just to listen. Always ask yourself, how can I apply this to my life? Every piece of knowledge you acquire should have a purpose, a real application. Otherwise, it's just useless information. In the end, the real question isn't, how much do you know, but how do you use what you know? You can spend your life stockpiling information like the young apprentice in the story, or you can truly dive in and learn with depth. Now think, what was the last thing you learned, and how could you explain it in a simple way? Write it in the comments. We want to hear from you. 17th lesson. Small steps, big changes. Think of an elephant, majestic, powerful, walking with steady steps across its territory. Now let me ask you, do you think it learned to walk all at once? Spoiler alert, no. When it was born, its first steps were wobbly, uncertain. It stumbled, fell, and tried again. But it never gave up. Every small step led it to become the giant that now moves effortlessly for miles. That's how progress works. It starts small, shaky, until one day, without realizing it, you walk with the strength and confidence of that elephant. The Stoics understood that progress isn't measured in big leaps, but in daily effort. They didn't expect to have everything overnight. If they lived today, they wouldn't be looking for the perfect shortcut or the latest hack for success. They knew the key was to take action, a little every day, and let time do its work. And I'm sure you've heard of James Clear, right? He popularized the idea of improving by 1% every day. He calls it the power of marginal gains. Think about this. If you improve by just 1% daily for a year, by the end, you won't just be a little better, you'll be 37 times better. Sounds like magic, but it's not. It's just consistency. The best part? You don't have to make huge changes, just small, intentional steps, repeated over time. How many times have you wanted to start something but never did because you felt like you had to do it all at once? How often have you thought, I don't have time to read an entire book? Here's the trick. You don't have to read it all at once. If you read just 4 pages a day by the end of the year, you'll have read more than 5 books. 4 pages may seem like nothing, but if you do it daily, you'll have read over 1,400 pages. That's 5 or 6 books. And the best part? You won't even feel like you're making an effort. Let's say you want to save €1,000 this year. Obviously, you're not going to try to put away all 1,000 at once, because, let's be honest, you'd have nothing left for the rest of the month. That would be like trying to eat an entire watermelon in one bite. Impossible, right? The logical way is to do it little by little, slice by slice, enjoying each step without choking on it. Saving works the same way. You can start small, like putting aside any spare change at the end of each day, or rounding up your expenses to the next euro and saving the difference. Make it easy and manageable. As Marcus Aurelius said, nothing happens suddenly. Everything is the result of small steps. And here's another key. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small. Maybe you saved 20 euros this month. Don't think, that's nothing. Celebrate it, because you're moving forward. Every small win is one step closer to your goal and gives you the motivation to keep going. Remember, those tiny steps, when added up, are what create massive transformation. The power of small steps is that they compound. Day after day, 1% here, 1% there, and suddenly, you realize you've completely changed your life. So tell me, what small step can you take today? You don't have to do it all at once. You just have to start. Because when you push yourself to be just a little better every day, you're building a version of yourself that doesn't just achieve goals, it exceeds them. Lesson number 18. Seek discomfort if you truly want to grow. The sun was barely rising over Rome, and the streets were still empty when Seneca stepped out of his home. He wasn't wearing the elegant robes that usually marked a man of his status. That day, like so many others, he had decided to leave his wealth hanging in the wardrobe. He walked dressed in rough, worn clothes, the same kind worn by men who could barely afford to eat. He felt the cold seeping through the fabric and the chill of the stone beneath his sandals. Some people stared, others laughed, but he kept walking, silent, unbothered. He had nothing to prove to anyone. He simply wanted to remind himself of a lesson he considered essential. If you depend on comfort, you will never be truly free. That was his training. He didn't lift weights or run marathons. His battlefield was voluntary discomfort. By exposing himself to what others avoided, he strengthened his mind. By choosing the hard path when he could easily take the easy one, he made sure that when hard times came, and they always do, nothing could break him. And that, my friend, is one of the most powerful truths in Stoicism. Growth doesn't live in comfort. It hides in what challenges you, in what hurts, in what pushes you beyond yourself. The problem is, we've turned comfort into a modern god. We worship instant pleasure, predictable routines, and security disguised as stability. But that same comfort that makes you feel safe today is the very thing that can trap you tomorrow. You tell yourself it's prudence, that the right moment will come, but deep down you know the truth. Most of the time it's fear. Fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of stepping into the unknown. And that fear is what keeps almost everyone stuck exactly where they are. Think about it. You stay in a job you hate because at least it's stable. You avoid an uncomfortable conversation because you don't want problems. You postpone the decision that could change your life because it's not the right time. And each of those excuses keeps you exactly where you are. Comfortable, yes, but small. Discomfort, on the other hand, is like an invisible gym. Every time you face it, your mind gets stronger. Every time you choose the harder road, your limits expand. It's like fire. If you avoid it, it consumes you from the outside. If you learn to move within it, it forges you from the inside. That's why the Stoics deliberately sought out discomfort. Not because they were masochists, but because they knew that every step outside the safe zone was a step closer to inner freedom. And you don't have to do anything extreme to start training. Start small. Do one thing each week that makes you uncomfortable. Speak in public if it terrifies you. Ask for what you're afraid to ask for. Seek rejection so it stops controlling you. Swap an easy routine for a demanding one. Wake up an hour earlier. Train when you don't feel like it. Spend an entire day without looking at your phone. Each of these decisions may seem insignificant, but they're like weights for your character. Each repetition makes you stronger. You can also learn to reinterpret discomfort. It doesn't always mean something's wrong. More often, it's a sign that you're growing. Fear isn't a wall, it's a door. Resistance isn't a warning to stop, it's an invitation to move forward. Every time that inner voice tells you, better not, that's exactly where you need to go. What you avoid most is usually what you need most. My friend, if you keep following the path of comfort, you'll end up like the majority, living within a small, safe, predictable, and limited perimeter. But if you learn to see discomfort as your ally, your mindset will rise to a level that very few ever reach, because the world belongs to those willing to do what most people avoid. So here's my challenge. Today, choose something that makes you uncomfortable, and do it. Don't overthink it. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Do it precisely because you don't feel like it. Because the very moment you decide to face discomfort, you begin rewriting your story. And when you look back, you'll see that the things you feared most were the ones that helped you grow the most. That what once made you uncomfortable now empowers you. And that every step outside your comfort zone was actually the step that took you away from the crowd and closer to surpassing them all. Now tell me, what's that thing you've been avoiding just because it makes you uncomfortable? It could be small or huge, but you know that's where your next level begins. Write it in the comments and leave this as a promise to yourself. Today, I choose the uncomfortable path because that's where I begin to rise. Lesson 19. Adapt or fall behind. Oof, my friend. Adapt or fall behind sounds tough, doesn't it? The world changes every day. The rules of the game never stay the same for long. Technology advances, ways of learning evolve. What was trending yesterday is history today. And here's the key question. If you don't change with the world, how do you expect to be the best at what you do? How will you become wiser if you cling to the old ways? The truth is simple. Either you adapt or you fall behind. Think about something as basic as a paper map. Years ago, no one would go on a trip without one. But tell me, when was the last time you used a physical map? Exactly. Now we have GPS in our pockets, real-time navigation, artificial intelligence optimizing routes. And if someone insisted on using paper maps while ignoring technology, what would happen? They'd get lost. That's how it is with everything. What works for you today might be obsolete tomorrow. Not because the world is unfair, but because change is the only constant. Seneca left us a lesson that fits perfectly here. It's not that we don't have enough time, but that we waste a lot of it. And that includes clinging to things that no longer serve us. If you keep holding on to outdated methods just because they feel comfortable, you're losing opportunities to grow. If you insist on doing things the way they've always been done, you're denying yourself the chance to learn new ways that could make you better. Look at what happened to Blockbuster. For years, it was the king of home entertainment. No one imagined watching movies without going to one of their stores. Then Netflix came along. Not because it had more money or more power, but because it adapted to the streaming era. The result? Blockbuster disappeared. Netflix grew to dominate the industry. And all because of one simple reason. One adapted, and the other didn't. The same happens with people. Carol Dweck, a psychologist and author of the growth mindset theory, explains that there are two types of people: those who see change as a threat, and those who see it as an opportunity. People with a fixed mindset believe that skills are static, that if they're not naturally good at something, it's not worth trying. On the other hand, people with a growth mindset understand that everything can improve with effort and learning. Who do you think gets further? You probably have someone like this in your family, that person who always complains about new phones, about how everything is digital now, about how things were better before. They say they don't want to learn, that their old phone is enough, but when they need to do something important, like make a video call or send an email, who do they call? You. Because of course their old phone can't do it, or they simply don't know how. And the worst part? Instead of learning how to use it themselves, they stick to their same stance, complaining about new things and relying on others. In the end, instead of being more independent, they end up needing someone else to solve their problems. That's what happens when you resist change. You become dependent on those who do adapt. So my friend, how do you make sure you're not that person? The most important thing is to be curious. And no, I don't mean spying on your neighbors through the window, that's not it. But instead of rejecting new things, ask questions. Learn how they work, explore their benefits. You don't have to accept everything immediately, but you should understand it before dismissing it. It's also key to stay ahead. If you see that something is changing in your environment, don't wait until it's mandatory to learn it. Prepare yourself beforehand. Those who adapt first always have an advantage over the rest. And one thing you must never forget, accept that failure is part of the process. Adapting doesn't mean getting everything right on the first try. It means learning from mistakes quickly and moving forward. If you want to be the best, the wisest, your own master, you need to understand that nothing in this world is static. Only those who learn to move with change can truly take control of their destiny. So tell me, are you going to evolve, or are you going to stay behind? But wait, because here comes the real turning point. There's something that separates those who move forward with strength from those who stay stuck, wondering why. Something that determines whether you'll truly reach your best version or keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again. What we're about to dive into might be uncomfortable, but it's exactly what you need to take the next step. Lesson 20. Turn obstacles into your greatest teacher. Imagine you're walking along a path heading toward the top of a mountain. The air is fresh, the trail is clear, and everything seems to be going well. Until suddenly a huge boulder blocks the way. Most people stop right there. Some sit down and wait for someone to move it. Others complain about their bad luck and turn back. And then there are those who keep going, not because the path is easy, but because they choose to climb the rock and make it part of the journey. That's exactly how life works. You move forward with a clear plan, and out of nowhere, something changes everything. An unexpected failure, a betrayal, a loss, a door that slams shut. Your first reaction is to think the road ends here, that this is as far as you go. But it's not the end. It's the test. What determines whether you stay where you are or move forward isn't the rock. It's what you decide to do with it. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this in one of the hardest moments of his life, while dealing with wars, plagues, and internal crises across the empire. What stands in the way becomes the way. He wasn't writing some nice phrase to inspire others. It was how he chose to face his own challenges. He knew that every obstacle hid a chance to grow, and giving up on it meant giving up that chance. Think about it. If everyone reacted the same way to the rock, they'd all be stuck in the same place. But the ones who choose to climb it develop strength, skill, and vision. The same thing happens with real-life challenges. Losing a job might feel like the end of your stability, until you use it as the push to build something of your own. A breakup might feel like failure, until you realize it gave you the space you needed to figure out who you really are. Even a mistake can feel like a burden, or become the start of your reinvention. The obstacle is not your enemy, it's your trainer. Every blow teaches you something. Every stumble prepares you for what's next. And yes, it often hurts. But without friction, there's no progress. And no, don't think the Stoics denied pain. They accepted it as an inevitable part of the journey. They knew they couldn't control what happened on the outside, but they could always control how they responded. That's why when reality put a wall in front of them, they didn't ask, "Why me?" They asked, "What can I do with this?" That's the difference between those who get stuck and those who rise above their circumstances. Now apply that to your own life. Every time something goes wrong, ask yourself 3 simple questions. What can I learn from this? What's in my control to change? How can I come out of this stronger? At first, the answers might not be clear. But just asking those questions shifts your mindset. You stop seeing the rock as a dead end and start seeing it as a step up. And once you start redefining your failures in real time, everything changes. You stop calling them defeats and start seeing them as training. You'll realize that many of the things that hurt the most in your life weren't punishments, they were lessons. Every layoff, every rejection, every disappointment was shaping you, preparing you for the next level. Try this. Write down the obstacles that have marked you the most, Next to each one, note what it taught you. You'll be surprised to see that without them, you wouldn't be who you are today. Because they weren't just stones in the way, they were steps that helped you climb higher. My friend, you're not defined by the obstacles you face, but by what you choose to build with them. While many sit in front of the wall that blocks their way, you can use it as a springboard. While others stay stuck in complaints, you can turn pain into wisdom. And while most people give up after the first hit, you can choose to let each hit make you stronger. If you keep reacting like everyone else, you'll stay in the same place as everyone else. But if you learn to see challenges as teachers, your mindset will rise to a level where nothing can stop you. Because the real difference isn't in the path you walk, it's in what you do with each obstacle that shows up. And when you start using every stone as fuel, that's when you'll be ready to break through your limits and leave behind everyone who gave up too soon. Lesson 21. If you don't focus, you lose. Imagine your day as a video game. You have a clear goal: to improve at what you do, learn new skills, and level up. But here's the catch. Every time you get distracted, you lose a life. You pick up your phone to reply to a message, and before you know it, you've spent 30 minutes on Instagram. Beep, one life down. You sit down to study, but every 5 minutes you check your notifications. Beep, another life lost. You start working on something important, but then remember you need to reply to an email. And suddenly an hour is gone on secondary tasks. Game over. The problem isn't that you don't have time. The problem is that you're wasting it on small distractions that seem harmless, but leave you stuck in the same place at the end of the day. Does this sound familiar? Don't worry, it's not a coincidence. Social media, TV, video games, and even streaming platforms are designed to capture your attention and keep you hooked for as long as possible. The documentary The Social Dilemma explains it well. Every time you open an app, an algorithm is analyzing what you like, what grabs your attention, what keeps you scrolling. It's not that you lack willpower. You're fighting against systems created by experts to keep you distracted. But what would a Stoic do in today's world? Would they let themselves get trapped by all these distractions? Spoiler, no. The Stoics understood that attention is one of the most valuable resources we have. It's not just about working hard, it's about working with intention, about doing what truly matters. And in a world where distractions are everywhere, staying focused isn't just an advantage, it's a necessity. Marcus Aurelius knew this well. Focus every minute as if it were your last, because if you live distracted, you're not really living at all. And here's the key. If you don't learn to take back your focus, you will never own your time. And if you don't own your time, how do you expect to become the best at what you do? How will you master anything if your attention is scattered in 1,000 directions? Think of it this way. Imagine you want to improve in a computer program that could open doors to a better job. You have everything you need to learn it: free courses, tutorials, practice. But every time you try to focus, you end up checking messages, jumping from tab to tab, or watching a random video. Days go by, weeks, months, and you're still in the same place. So tell me, how can you become your own master if your attention is being hijacked every moment? This is where we take action. You need to build a system that helps you truly concentrate. If you need to learn something new or work on an important project, create a space where there are no notifications popping up every 2 minutes. Use airplane mode, block social media, or leave your phone in another room. If the Stoics trained their minds to resist the temptations of pleasure and comfort, why wouldn't you be able to resist a TikTok notification? Also, work in time blocks. Don't try to focus for endless hours. Your brain isn't designed for that. Try the Pomodoro technique. 20 or 25 minutes of deep work, followed by a 5-minute break. Or use longer focus sessions if that works better for you, but set specific times to work without interruptions. And remember, you're not a robot. It's impossible to focus on 10 tasks at once. Jumping from one thing to another doesn't make you more productive. It makes you less efficient. If you're learning something new, dedicate time to it without mixing it with other activities. Your brain needs to focus on one thing at a time to truly absorb information. My friend, you can't become an expert if you let distractions steal your attention all the time. You can't be your own master if you keep letting the world dictate where your energy should go. But every time you manage to focus, you regain a life in the game. Every time you avoid a distraction, you give yourself more chances to move forward. Every time you choose to train your mind instead of letting others control your attention, you get closer to the version of yourself you truly want to be. Lesson 22. Train in silence, so you can shine when the time comes. Picture an archer training at night, alone, with the wind whipping across his face and darkness covering everything around him. No one sees him. No one applauds the hours he spends practicing. Sometimes he doesn't even hit the target, but he stays there night after night, sharpening his aim in the shadows. Then one day, in the middle of the battlefield, when everyone else trembles as they draw their bows, he shoots with perfect precision. And it's not luck. It's because he's done it 1,000 times when no one was watching. That's how life works too. Most people want to stand out, but few are willing to train without an audience. Many want to be admired, but almost no one wants to pay the price of silent excellence. Everyone wants results, but only a few are willing to work when there are no promises, no rewards, no witnesses. And that's the difference. Those who prepare without applause are the ones who, when the moment comes, rise above everyone else. Seneca put it simply: luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. And that's the problem for most people. They wait for the opportunity before they start preparing. They wait for the perfect job to learn the skill, for the right person to appear before becoming their best self, for someone to notice them before they start putting in the effort. But by the time the door opens, it's already too late. If you're not ready, the opportunity passes you by. Epictetus compared it to the training of an athlete. You can't wait for the competition to start building strength. You have to do it every day, even when there's no crowd, no noise, no reason to perform. In the same way, you can't wait for life to demand mental strength before you start developing it. You have to train it now, quietly, while everyone else is distracted. History is full of people who lived this truth. Kobe Bryant woke up at 4 in the morning to train while his teammates were still asleep. Simon Sinek explains that true leadership is built in the unseen moments, when you make hard decisions with no recognition. Great musicians play for years in empty rooms before stepping onto great stages, and when their time comes to shine, it looks sudden. But in reality, it happened long before. The problem is, we live in a world that glorifies results and ignores the process. We want to post every small achievement, get validation at every step, prove to the world that we're doing something. But while some are busy showing off, others are quietly preparing. And when opportunity finally comes, they don't need to speak. Their work speaks for them. My friend, if you keep following the path most people take, the path of instant gratification, impatience, and constant need for recognition, you'll end up where they all do: exhausted, frustrated, and unprepared when life tests you. But if you choose the path of invisible work, if you do the right thing even when no one is watching, if you train your mind, body, and skills without witnesses, you'll build an advantage very few people ever have. There's a metaphor I love: the iceberg. The tiny part above the water is what everyone sees: success, talent, recognition. But what holds it all up is what lies beneath. Years of silent effort, sleepless nights, hidden failures, endless repetitions. That invisible part is what changes everything. So how do you train in silence? Each day, dedicate time to working on something no one will applaud you for. Improve a skill that few value today, but that tomorrow will be essential. Practice what challenges you, not what you're already good at. And above all, stop sharing every step as if it needs validation. Learn to love the process in the shadows, because that's where real strength is built. When your moment finally comes, and believe me, it will, you won't need to explain anything. You won't need to convince anyone that you belong there. Your preparation will speak for itself. Your actions will tell your story. And while others wonder how you achieved it overnight, you'll know that overnight took years. So today, make a commitment to yourself. Ask, what can I start training now, even if no one sees it? And when you find the answer, start today. Because the greats don't just appear, they are built in silence. And when opportunity comes, they don't chase it. They're already ready to take it. And in that moment, my friend, that's when you stop being one of many and become someone capable of rising above them all. Lesson 23. Build habits that never fail. Do you know the biggest mistake people make when trying to change their lives? Believing that willpower alone will be enough. Listen, no matter how motivated you feel, that energy won't last forever. But do you know what will? Habits. Because, let's be clear, strong habits aren't built on motivation. They're built on systems. If you rely only on willpower, sooner or later, you'll fail. But if you design a system that works for you, habits become second nature. Let me share something personal, something that might help you. A few years ago, I had an injury that forced me to stretch every day to avoid pain. At first, I struggled with consistency. I'd do it one day, but the next, I'd forget or just not feel like it. It was frustrating, but one day I decided to change my approach. I stopped relying on my memory or willpower. I created a system. I placed my yoga mat right next to my bed so it would be the first thing I saw in the morning. I made it a ritual. I played the same 3-minute song every time and committed to doing it, no excuses. The result? Within weeks, I didn't even have to think about it anymore. It became automatic. That system changed everything, and the habit stopped feeling like a burden. Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert and author of How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big, puts it bluntly. Goals are for losers, systems are for winners. What does he mean by that? Goals on their own can trap you in frustration. You become so focused on the final result that you forget what really matters, the process. If you're only thinking about the outcome, every little setback can feel like a failure. But if you focus on building a solid system that moves you forward day after day, the system will keep you going, no matter what. So, how do you create a system that builds habits that never fail? Start small. Don't try to change everything at once. Let's say you want to drink more water. Don't aim for 2 liters a day right from the start. Begin with something manageable, like drinking a glass of water as soon as you wake up, and make it easy. If a habit requires too much effort, you'll quit. Think about it. What's more effective, getting out of bed and walking to the kitchen to fill a glass of water, or having a full bottle of water already waiting for you on your nightstand? The answer is obvious, right? When you remove obstacles, habits become effortless. You won't have to think about doing it. It'll just be there, ready to go. And here's the key. Integrate your habit into your daily routine. Don't try to create a habit in isolation. Attach it to something you already do. This is called habit stacking. For example, if you already have the habit of brushing your teeth in the morning, use that as a trigger for your new habit. You brush your teeth, you pick up the glass of water you left the night before, and just like that, you've started your day with a new habit. Why does this work? Because when you link a new habit to something you already do, you don't have to remember it or rely on willpower. Over time, it becomes as automatic as brushing your teeth. Seneca made this clear centuries ago. Consistency beats talent. It's not about what you achieve in a single day. It's about what you can sustain over time. Think of habits like a flowing river. You don't need to push the water. You just have to design the right path so it keeps flowing, day after day until it carries you to success. Trust me, my friend. Building systems isn't about making life harder. It's about making it easier and more effective. Lesson 24. Your time is gold. Use it like a champion. Picture Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the known world, receiving each morning a chest filled with 24 golden coins. No more, no less. He knows that when night falls, those coins will disappear forever, never to return. He could spend them on luxuries, fleeting pleasures, or meaningless debates. He could even leave them forgotten on the table while the day slips through his fingers. But he doesn't. Each coin has a purpose, a clear destination. One to write his reflections, another to train his body, another to listen to his advisors and learn. because he understands that those coins aren't gold, they're ours, and each one is a piece of his life that will never come back. Now think about yourself. Every morning when you open your eyes, you receive the same chest, 24 coins. Yet many of them vanish before you even notice. One disappears while you scroll aimlessly on your phone. Another gets lost in pointless conversations. Two more fade away in useless worries about things you can't control. And when night comes, you ask yourself why you haven't progressed, why your life feels stuck. The answer is simple. You gave your coins to what doesn't matter. The Stoics were obsessed with this idea. Seneca warned that it's not that we have too little time, it's that we waste so much of it. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, would scold himself daily for spending time on trivial things, reminding himself to live each day as if it were his last. And Epictetus insisted that every minute should serve to move us closer to virtue, because nothing is more precious than the present. They understood something most people forget. You can't buy more time, but you can decide how to invest it. Think about how you spend your own coins. Maybe you say you don't have time to read, to work out, to build that project you dream about. But if you looked at your day with honesty, you'd see how many of those coins are spent on distractions that give you nothing in return. You'd see leaks everywhere in procrastination, in fear of starting, in the habit of saying yes to everything others ask of you. Meanwhile, your future is left unfunded. That's the great trap of modern life. If you don't take control of your time, the world will do it for you. Notifications, endless demands, constant noise. It's all designed to spend your coins before you can use them on what truly matters. And here's the hard truth. The time you give away today will never come back. Every wasted minute is one less brick in the future you want to build. That's why you need to shift your mindset. Instead of saying, "I don't have time," say, "I'm not prioritizing this." Then ask yourself if you really want your life to be built out of the things you are prioritizing. Start simple. Do a time audit. Write down how you spend every hour for a week. You'll be shocked to see how many coins vanish without a trace. Then apply the 80-20 rule. Dedicate most of your time to the things that truly move your life forward. And each morning, before you begin, ask yourself one question. If today were my last chance, how would I spend my 24 coins? My friend, once you start treating your time as the treasure it is, everything will change. You'll stop wasting it on what doesn't serve your purpose. You'll stop letting others decide how you spend it. Each coin will become an investment in your growth, your peace, your future. And when you look back, you won't regret what you lost, because you'll know every second counted. Because if you keep using your time the way everyone else does, you'll end up with the same empty results they do. But if you choose to invest it with intelligence, with intention, with purpose, your mindset will rise above the average. And when the day ends, you'll smile knowing that those 24 coins weren't wasted. They became the life you always wanted to live. Now tell me, what will you invest your first coin in tomorrow? Write it in the comments with this phrase, "Today I decide how I spend my life." Because every day gives you a new chest, and it's up to you whether you turn it into gold or let it scatter in the wind. Lesson number 25. Live by your principles, not by your impulses. How many times have you made a decision and later thought, "What was I thinking?" An unnecessary purchase because you were stressed? A message you should never have sent because you were angry? A project you abandoned because you got bored? And the worst part is, deep down, you knew it wasn't the right thing to do, but the impulse was stronger than your judgment. And that, my friend, is exactly what separates those who move forward with purpose from those who wander in circles. Some live guided by principles, others by momentary reactions. The Stoics were crystal clear about this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not let your mind be carried away by your desires. Control them and act according to reason. Because impulses are like waves. They come, they crash, they drag you, and then they're gone. Today you want one thing, tomorrow the opposite. Today you say yes with excitement, and tomorrow you don't even know why you did it. Principles, on the other hand, are like a lighthouse in the middle of a storm. No matter how strong the wind blows or how high the waves rise, They always point you in the right direction. To live by principles means acting according to what you know is right, even when it's uncomfortable. It means your decisions aren't dictated by whether you're tired, angry, or motivated, but by whether they align with what you believe. Epictetus explained it simply. To live well is to live according to nature, which means acting with virtue and reason instead of being dragged around by fleeting emotions. Think about it for a second. Most of the mistakes we regret the most don't come from ignorance. They come from impulsiveness. We know we shouldn't respond in anger, but we do. We know we don't need that purchase, but we make it. We know we should keep going, but we give up. And if you look back and analyze each of those choices, you'll realize they weren't rational decisions. They were reactions. Principles are the opposite. Conscious decisions made before the storm hits. They act like an anchor that keeps you steady even when chaos shakes everything around you. Cato the Younger is a perfect example. In a world where everyone sold their integrity for power, he chose virtue over survival. And when betraying his values would have been easier, he stayed true to them, even if it cost him everything. It may sound extreme, but it reveals a deep truth. If you're not willing to pay a price for your principles, you'll pay a far greater one for not having them. And you don't have to look that far. Think about someone you truly admire. It's not the person who always followed what they felt. It's the one who stayed faithful to their values, even when it meant saying no, going against the current, or facing criticism. That kind of coherence builds respect, trust, and inner strength. The truth is, we all have values, but very few of us have them clearly defined. That's why a simple Stoic practice can change your life. Write down the 3 virtues you respect most, maybe honesty, courage, or discipline, and then ask yourself if your daily actions reflect them. If they don't, it's not that you lack principles, it's that you're not living them. Imagine that every decision is a fork in the road. One path is paved by impulses, short, easy, but leading you exactly where everyone else ends up. The other is the path of principles, more demanding, more solitary, but each step lifts you higher beyond your limits. The world is full of people who do whatever they feel in the moment. Very few do what they know they should, and it's those few who end up transforming their lives. Before making an important decision, ask yourself, does this reflect who I want to be? If the answer is yes, take the step, even if it scares you. If it's no, stop, even if the temptation feels powerful. Learn to say no, even when something feels good, if you know it goes against your values. And above all, build your own personal code. 3 or 4 non-negotiable principles that guide your actions no matter the situation. My friend, remember this: emotions change, impulses fade, but principles endure. They are the invisible thread connecting every decision to the destiny you want to build. And when your steps are guided by them, no storm can throw you off course, no failure can break you, and no temptation can make you lose your way. Lesson 26. Think with logic, not emotions. Imagine your life is a ship. You're sailing calmly, steering firmly, moving toward your destination. But suddenly, a storm hits. The wind shakes you, the waves rise, and instead of staying on course, you start spinning the wheel like crazy, letting fear take over. The result? You end up lost, far from your destination with your ship in ruins. This is how most people make decisions. Heart racing, trapped by the emotion of the moment. And the worst part? When the storm passes and they can finally see clearly, they realize they've gone in the wrong direction. If you want to become someone who masters their life, who makes decisions that take them further, who truly becomes their own teacher, you need to learn to think with logic, not emotions. And Epictetus said it centuries ago, it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. It's not the situation, it's how you see it. It's not what happens, it's what you decide to do about it. But we live in a world where people prefer to react rather than analyze, and that leads us to make the same mistakes over and over again. Take fake news, for example. You see an alarming headline on social media, share it without thinking, and suddenly, everyone is convinced of something they haven't even verified. People don't stop to ask, Does this actually make sense? They just act on impulse. And here's where it gets interesting. More than 2,000 years ago, Socrates already knew that people didn't think deeply enough. That's why he created his famous method of questioning. Instead of simply accepting what someone said, he would respond with another question, and another, until the person realized their argument didn't hold up. Imagine someone saying, "Everything natural is good." Socrates wouldn't contradict them outright. He'd simply ask, "So is natural poison also good?" The person, caught in their own flawed logic, would be forced to reconsider their position. And little by little, Socrates helped others think more clearly, to avoid being swayed by emotional, baseless statements. Now, my friend, let me put you in a situation. You've been working with a family member for years in a business. At first, everything was great, but now you feel stuck. You have bigger ambitions, you want to grow, but you know that if you stay, you'll never move forward. The problem? You don't know how to bring it up without turning it into a family drama. Every time you think about it, emotions take over. The fear of conflict, the guilt of wanting something different, the anxiety of imagining what they'll say. So you decide to stay, but deep down, you know you're sabotaging yourself. This is where you need to apply what the Stoics taught. If you let emotions take over, you'll keep making decisions that leave you stuck. But if you learn to think logically, you'll finally see the situation clearly. So think, what would Marcus Aurelius do in my situation? First, instead of reacting with fear or guilt, he would ask questions before making a decision. Why do I want to leave this business? What do I want to improve? How can I communicate it without damaging the relationship? Asking questions forces you to slow down and analyze the situation from a different perspective. He also wouldn't accept any information without verifying it. Sometimes, we assume something will be a disaster just because we imagine the worst. But is that really true? Do I know anyone who has been in this situation and handled it well? Am I seeing all my options, or just the ones that scare me? And most importantly, he wouldn't make decisions at the peak of an emotion. If you have an argument with your family member and storm out saying, "I quit. I can't take this anymore," chances are you'll regret it the next day. But if you make your decision when you're calm, after thoroughly analyzing everything with logic, you'll know you did the right thing. My friend, remember this. If you control your mind, you control your decisions. And if you control your decisions, you control your life. So tell me, are you going to keep letting yourself drift, or are you going to take the wheel and steer with clarity? Lesson 27. Discipline beats excuses. Want to know the real secret that separates those who go far from those who just keep dreaming? It's not talent. It's not luck. The Stoics figured it out centuries ago, and today, it's still the difference between living like everyone else or rising above them. And that, my friend, is what you need to understand if you truly want to stop living like the rest. Because if you keep following the same path, with the same excuses and the same habits, you'll end up in the same place, lost in the crowd. Think about the last promise you broke. You said you'd start reading every night, that you'd go to the gym, that you'd finally work on that project you've been putting off for years. And for a couple of days you did. Then came the tiredness, the bad mood, the lack of time. It's fine if I skip today, you told yourself, then tomorrow too, until the whole plan vanished. And no, it's not because you're weak. You quit because you were waiting to feel like doing it. But Stoicism isn't based on how you feel. It's based on what you must do. Epictetus knew this well. He said that no one can be free without mastering themselves. And mastering yourself doesn't mean doing things when you feel like it. It means doing them precisely when you don't. It means acting when your mind throws out every excuse, when your body asks for rest, when everything around you tells you to give up. Discipline is a lot like the work of a sculptor. Picture Michelangelo standing in front of a massive block of marble, shapeless, dull, with nothing about it that stands out. For weeks, there are no visible signs of progress. Just repeated strikes, chunks falling to the floor, dust covering the studio. From the outside, anyone would think he's wasting his time. But he doesn't see a block. He sees David hidden inside that stone. Each strike isn't random. It's one more step toward revealing what's already there, waiting to be freed. And you are that block too. Every time you get up when you don't want to, when you read even though you're tired, when you keep your word even if no one notices, you're chipping away at your own marble. At first, maybe nothing seems to change. No results, no reward, no recognition. But silently, strike after strike, you're sculpting your character, removing what's in the way, shaping who you can become. Marcus Aurelius understood this firsthand. He ruled an empire, faced wars, and made decisions that could alter the lives of millions. And even then, every night he sat down to write his reflections. He didn't do it because he felt inspired. He did it because he knew duty isn't up for negotiation. Discipline wasn't optional, it was the path. Most of us are just waiting for motivation to magically appear, but it works the other way around. Action is what brings motivation, not the other way around. It's like trying to light a fire by staring at the wood. Nothing happens until you start rubbing it. The spark comes after, and when you truly get this, you stop waiting for the mood to act. Next time your mind says, "I don't feel like it," ask yourself a different question. Did I promise I would? If the answer is yes, then do it, because your word has to mean more than your mood. Start small if you have to. 5 minutes of reading, 10 minutes of working out, one single step. What matters isn't how big the action is, it's that it happens. And change how you see tiredness. We've been taught to take it as a sign to stop, but in reality, it's proof you're growing. Muscles hurt when they get stronger. Your mind complains when it expands. Every time you keep going despite the discomfort, you're shedding who you were yesterday. You'll realize this. The ones who only act when they feel like it are stuck in an endless loop of false starts and quick exits. But the ones who act because they made a decision, even when their body feels heavy and their mind protests, become unstoppable. If you keep doing what everyone else does, you'll keep getting what everyone else gets: excuses, frustration, and broken promises. But if you choose effort, if you follow through even when no one's watching, if you make discipline part of who you are, then your mindset will rise. And when that happens, surpassing your limits won't be a goal. It'll be your way of life. Remember this, my friend. When the marble finally cracks and the sculpture appears, it wasn't that final strike that made the difference. It was all the ones before, the ones that seemed useless, the ones no one saw. The same will happen with you. Every act of discipline brings you closer to the version of yourself that can go beyond limits. And when that version shows up, it won't just be you who's changed. You'll be ready to rise above them all. You don't need to run faster than anyone else. All you need is to never stop moving forward. Because when your steps become steady, your decisions consistent, and your mind unbreakable, one day you'll look around and realize you've already surpassed them, without ever trying to. If you're ready to take that step, write it in the comments. Today I start rising. The fact that you've made it to the end says a lot about your commitment to yourself. And that's what builds real strength, day by day. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you know someone who needs this message, share it with them. Click the videos on screen and let's keep walking this path together.